Jewish section of Oak City. Today I'd like to take a little stroll, if you would, and we're going to meet two other very well-known Jewish men in this part of the hood. And they also happen to be my brother-in-laws, Mr. Helhe Nussbaum and Isadore Kwilecki. Now let's take a little walk. My name is Mr. Henry Ehrlich. My brother is Abraham Ehrlich, who came from Valdosta in 1869. He was the first recorded Jew in Bainbridge. My brother and I soon followed. Abraham had opened a dry goods store, and Lewis had opened a butcher shop soon after. Abraham and I lived in one house, and Lewis lived in another house close to us with his family. In 1872, I assumed ownership of the dry goods store due to my brother Abraham's very sad passing. I married my wife Sarah in 1877, and we had 8 children. We had 6 boys and 2 daughters. I was a founder and one of the first presidents of the Citizens Bank of Bainbridge, and I was also involved in an extensive lumber enterprise with Mr. Swindle, and the Ehrlich Swindle Railroad had branches all over the country to transport timber. But my main business was a partnership with Mr. Herman Gons and the General Merchandise Store. We were cotton buyers and maintained a large warehouse. Some say I was a very imposing man and dressed somewhat like Colonel Sanders from KFC. However, I was fast to chuckle. I always wore a suit and a bow tie, as you see, and I had large pieces of lands by thousands of acres that was in our family until the Great Depression, which started in 1930. Thankfully, I was not around to see that. I died in 1929. I was a very dictated businessman and a great leader, and I loved my family dearly. We laughed a lot, and all my children did very well for themselves. We had a servant in charge of the kitchen named Cookie Guy, and then there was Big Aaron, who was my chauffeur, because I never learned how to drive in my lifetime. My son had the very first car wreck in Bainbridge. It happened on the corner of Calhoun and Broad Street. There was only a handful of automobiles at the time in the county. And our family home is still standing as well. You've probably seen it. It's on Shotwell Street across from the Rollins house. Now, Mr. Kwilecki here is a part of 3 very popular Jewish families in Bainbridge, being the Ehrliches, the Kwileckis, and the Nussbaums. We're all intertwined by some way, like business dealings or marriages. And I hold this gentleman in high esteem. You may want to hear the story from the man himself.
Henry, are you telling these people stories about your life? You forget I know you. Henry and I go way back. We were born in the same year, and we moved to Bainbridge as teenagers. Now, Henry and I had a friendly little competition in business. We were both in the general merchandising business, but eventually I got out of that and started my own hardware store. You may know of it as Kwilecki's hardware store. It was a very successful business.
But you're not one to boast, are you, Isadore?
Now, Henry, what is it the young people of this generation are saying? I remember, don't be a hater.
No, of course not. I just hate to hear you take to rambling.
Noted, Henry. I'll try to keep it short. Now, let me start at the beginning.
So much for keeping it short, huh?
I kid. Now then, I owned some prime real estate, and on one, I built a 2-story building. On the first story, there were several stores, including my hardware store. And on the second story was the Kwilecki Opera House. This was the first auditorium in Bainbridge. We held many shows there, traveling shows, operas, light theater, you name it. Now the hardware store eventually became a family-oriented business. Well, I married my beautiful wife, Miss Bertha Brash, and we had 8 children, 3 daughters and 5 sons. My son Adolf died, unfortunately, when he was 4. A large machine used for grinding sugar fell on him. It was a great tragedy for our family. But 3 of my other children ran their own stores, as we had expanded into Moultrie, Quincy, and Chattahoochee. Now this is where old Henry and I become brother-in-laws. My daughter Rosalie married his son Julian.
Now, if I am correct, your daughter Julian opened up a Sunday school for the family when she was 18.
That she did, Henry. And as word spread, more Jews came into attendance. Soon we were holding services in homes in the Elks Lodge. We even hired a rabbi from Albany to lead the services. He was the one who convinced us to start building a temple. So we started building up the funds, we bought a parcel of land on Evans and Broad, and we got to building. What most people don't know is that I provided all the building material for the synagogue. Then in 1916, our temple, the great temple Bethel, was opened in a public celebration. All people in Bainbridge of all different faiths came that day.
It was a celebration for all the faiths. And I remember you being quite the civic-minded. I remember you picking up trash from on the square.
I had so many kids running around my home, I guess I just got in the habit of picking stuff up. This was probably dropped down by old Nussbaum here, though.
Isadore, you know me better than that.
I do, friend, I do. But these people may not. Ladies and gentlemen, may I introduce you to Mr. Helhe Nussbaum.
Good evening. Henry, Isadore, how are you? I actually went by Henry when I first came to America. But as to avoid confusion, I shall go by my given name of Helhe tonight. As I'm sure you've been told, our three families are all joined by marriage or business. How, may you ask, did I come to be part of these great folks? Well, it goes all the way back to Germany. In Germany, I married a beautiful young girl by the name of Lena. We had 3 children, but things were very bad in Germany, and I wanted to get away from the anti-Semitism and to find a better life. So, I made a tough decision. I left my wife and left my children, and I came to Bainbridge to get things started. Why Bainbridge, you may ask? Well, Lena already had 3 brothers here settled. Abraham, Louis, and Henry. Henry and I are brother-in-laws. I became a merchant and opened up Nussbaum General Store on the south side of the square. It was also a butcher, and Louis and I would often help each other fill orders. 2 years later, I sent for my family, and a year after that, baby number 4 was born.
At least when you sent for something, it arrived. I still don't know where my precious books are.
You need to let that go, Isadore. Your books are lost somewhere in New York. Even the private detective you hired could not find them.
You hired a private detective to find your books. Those must have been some books, huh?
They were.
Tell them how many little Nussbaums you had running around.
Well, we had 10 children. Oh. But we lost the twins when they were less than a year old.
It's never easy to lose a child.
Truer words have not been spoken. Lena ran the general store, and in 1886 I opened Oak City Cooperage Company to make barrels for the turpentine industry that was starting here in Decatur County. The general store sold furniture and other general merchandise. It even had a beer parlor in the back room.
I still think that is funny. Lena serving beer in the back.
I was very civic-minded and served on the Bainbridge City Council until my death. My children, like my friends here, were also very successful. If you come back by next tour, maybe they will tell you about their accomplishments.
Thank you.